Welcome everyone to another episode of the Will and Rock MMA podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody had a great weekend. There is no fight going on this week. We finally get a break from UFC cards.
Yeah,
it's not to the following week, which we got Gustafsson versus Smith, which is something to look forward to as well. But let's just talk about some official fights and some rumors that's going on. So we got.
Well, none of them are rumor. If I'm not mistaken, everything that we posted so far is.
Oh, you're right. You're right. These are official fights. You're absolutely right. So we got UFC on ESPN Plus 13 is officially booked between Cynthia Cavallo versus Leanne Sosa. Something that we're really looking forward to, especially after Cynthia Cavallo's last performances. She has been on a tear.
She has been, man. She's great at her stand-up game. She's great in the ground. Very well all-around fighter. I will talk a little more into depth once this fight comes about, but a great match. A really great match.
Something to look forward to is every time we discuss the main fighter in that card, it seems like they lose. Yeah. So really look out for Sosa. Somebody's on the come up as well.
Absolutely.
We'll see what ends up happening in that card. Looking forward to actually breaking that down eventually. So, also, UFC on ESPN 4 just added Lise Karamouche versus Roxanne Modafferi. That's another fight to look into as well, especially. Liz has this thing where she goes up and down with wins. Something to really look forward to is what Liz is going to walk into that octagon. Once again, we'll break it when time comes, but I do feel like she needs that. She needs a big victory in order for us to be like, okay, maybe she's a contender. Maybe she could move forward in that division.
This is the perfect matchup for Lise Karamouche. I believe that, she was one of the first fighters that came really close to submitting Ronda Rousey when they first fought. Remember, this is a few years back. She has the upper hand going into this fight. The older fighter Roxy, who's been in the game for such a long time. She's one of the pioneers in the female division. She's always a little bit slower. You don't want her to take you down, because if she takes you down, there's a good chance that she might submit you. As long as Karamouche could stay in the top game, I believe that she would have the upper hand in this fight. And again, we'll talk about it a little more in depth when the card comes about.
Another fight that was breaking as well. So UFC on ESPN 4 also just added Walt Harris versus Aleksei Oleinik. This is a great matchup for both fighters. For one, Walt is a phenomenal wrestler, and you got someone like Oleinik, who, for whatever reason, loves to take people to the ground and submit them. So this is something that it's designed for both fighters. I will say Walt Harris' stand-up game has improved tremendously within the last 2 years. So would Harris want to impose his wrestling on Oleinik? Maybe not so much, and maybe keeping the distance and not getting caught in the clinch and taking down something to also break down.
I would agree with you 100%. Although Walt Harris does have the knockout power, I believe that he should stay on his feet the whole time. Do not want to be taken down by a guy like Oleinik, who's a motherfucker on the ground. This was a fight that was supposed to happen I think about a year ago. I think Oleinik, something was wrong with him. He was sick, so they had to cancel. Somebody else came into the card, and Will Harris just knocked his lights out. So great matchup for them to rebook it. I think it's a great matchup for the heavyweight division to begin with. But
I totally agree. And then we also have a sad news, actually. Obviously, Tyron Woodley ended up re-injuring his hand, and this is a continuing problem that he's had with his hand. Back when he fought Darren Till, then re-messed it up when he fought Usman. So it's time to fully go into that and get full surgery and full recovery on that hand if he really wants to continue fighting. Yeah. That's where his money comes from. I mean, this is somebody who has extreme power on his right hand, and that's the messed up hand that he had to walk away from. And people who were disappointed because they said, oh, Woodley's dodging it. Woodley's far from dodging. He was the first one to say yes to this fight, and we know Robbie Lawler doesn't say no to nobody.
I think that we shouldn't even entertain that. I mean, literally, don't even
a
bring
fucking
that to
phenomenal
life.
point.
But with that being said, I've been waiting this whole week looking who he's gonna fight, who is gonna jump into Lawler. That's the next post we want to put up.
Fuck, man, how many people have been? You got Darren Till, you got Ben Askren. I'm lying. Ben Askren is who I feel like they should get that rematch because that was such a close match. And technically he did lose that fight, and he ended up winning that fight because Robbie knocked this dude out, bro.
You know what? Anyways, that's besides the point. I do agree with you 100%. I think Ben Askren should rematch him. Perfect timing as well. You know, it's not like he hasn't been training. I mean, he just went into a wrestling match with the gold medalist. You know what I mean? Ben Askren has been training, he's been working, and you know, Robbie Lawler deserves that fucking rematch, man. He really does. But you're right, everybody and their mother wants to get into this car. Platinum Perry wants to get into this car. A whole bunch of people want to get into this car.
As it should be, though. As it should be.
I don't disagree. I believe that he might get the upper hand because he's been on the streak so far. However, we're just waiting to post this. This is like the next big move, you know what I mean? We're trying to update with everything that we can as quick as possible.
Yes, I agree, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what the fuck they're gonna put up against. There's so many fights. There's so many. Yeah. Robbie Lawler has a stack of like good five fighters that could go against him. Yeah. But it's not waiting too long and waiting last minute to book somebody. So that's my ultimate goal. So hopefully within this week, the UFC could find somebody for Robbie Lawler. And then breaking, we do have one champion who just booked the legend, Yoshiro Sexyama Akiyama. And he's been away for 2 years from the fighting game. I guess Don Marling, what the hell he's been doing? I don't know. He's been doing this stuff in Japan. But ONE FC has been putting up great fights and great cards, and they treat their fighters at 1,000% the way they're supposed to be treated. I mean, you got Sage Norcutt, who just fractured like 3 bones to his face, something crazy, or 4, something like that, and they fully took care of the guy. Yeah. So something that I really love watching is knowing that any unfortunate things that do happen in the ring, because they don't have necessarily octagon, they get taken care of right away. So yes.
Yeah, man, I think it's important for any organization to really take care of their fighters. It speaks of volumes to it. But back to the whole Sexyama thing, back in the map, you know, he's 43 years old. I would like to think he's a little weathered down. You know, he's a guy that fought in Pride for a little bit in Japan and then made his way into the UFC. Didn't have the best performances in the UFC. We saw a lot of potential, but like people like Bisping, people like if I'm not mistaken, Vanderlei Silva knocked him out. Great, I think he fought Chris Lieben. It was the only victory he had in this thing. He fought a couple of good fighters. However, he never really showed his real true potential. We saw a little bit of the potential, but we didn't see it fully because he never really won these fights. I believe that you know, it's something to really look forward to see what type of performance he puts up. And
hopefully he goes down as not just the name, but also somebody who we can actually discuss how well his performance has been. And then finally, man, we're extremely happy. Sugar Rashad Evans ends up getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Somebody who has put everything on the line for the sport. Somebody who continues to give to these young fighters. Continues to be a mentor. And has his own training camp, does so much for the sport as a whole, and did so much for the sport when he was actually active in fighting. Beat legends, knocked out legends. I mean, the most remarkable knockout that he had was versus Chuck Liddell, and ends up becoming a champion. So somebody who had a phenomenal career, took a couple of losses towards the end of his career, but saw the light at the end of the tunnel and said, you know what, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. I'm doing commentating. I'm still training these young fighters. Kudos to the guy. Totally deserves every single thing he's going to come in the future.
A lot of people said, you know, it's a little bit early. We have to take in consideration, what are we looking for the guy to turn 50 years old before we induct him? He officially retired of the sport of MMA, but he did not retire from the actual sport that is commentating, that is training. There's a lot more that goes along with it. He's still pushing the sport forward, which, you know, a great ambassador for it. Yeah, man, give him the give him the Hall of Fame now. Now is the perfect time for him to receive it.
Now is the time for us to celebrate him as well. I totally agree. Next we have let's just semi-breakdown UFC on ESPN 10, Dos Anjos versus Lee. Amazing card, guys. Amazing card. First fight in the main event, we had Davies Ramos, who ended up defeating Austin Hubbard via unanimous decision. Complete dominance from first round to the end. Any input you want to say on this fight?
No. Very simple. Exactly what you said. A great dominant fight. I'm really looking forward to see him get back into that octagon. Great performance.
Davies Ramos did to predict this, man. He a true guy, somebody who, once again, not the biggest name in the UFC, someone to really look forward to. And then one of my favorite fighters, man, Charles Oliveira defeats Nick Lenz via TKO punches in the second round. This dude is if you get the niche on him, you could find a way to beat Charles Oliveira. But if he sees openings better than most fighters do, he's a lot faster than most fighters for that division, which I realized after watching him fight Nick Lenz. And he could beat you on the ground, submit you in a heartbeat, or he could just knock you out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. He's becoming one of those fighters that, he's becoming a little more and more consistent. However, he has taken some loss in between here and there, but you're completely right, man. He's showing the power that he had with Nick Lenz. I mean, he knocked the fuck out of Nick Lenz, but it took a couple of punches to the face before he knocked him out. He could not take the punches anymore. But just like you said, man, do not take the guy down because he will submit you. So, good performance. I'm really interested to see who they're gonna put him up against next.
That's a good point. He has great matches, but stylistically, who could really stand with this guy? And then next fight, which was a last-minute entrance for Derek Krantz, being that he was supposed to fight. I can't recall exactly who he was supposed to fight before and ended up getting.
Oh, you mean Luque was supposed to fight again?
No, Vicente Luque was supposed to fight. I can't recall. Can't recall the guy's name. He ended up getting injured last minute. They end up putting in Derek Krantz, and Luque did exactly what he was put out there to do, and knocked out Derek Krantz punches in round one.
So what Krantz what he loves to do is he likes to impose his pressure the minute the bell rings. He's the type of guy, the minute the bell rings, he just rushes at you, right? And he did that exactly to Luque. He rocked Luque. Luque was in fucking wobble land. He could not finish Luque, and then after that, he got his, he got composed and everything. Luque came back and knocked his lights out, picked him apart, got him really tired in the second round, and that's a great performance by Luque, man.
Almost a very good example of somebody who's been fighting for a while, more of a vet type of fighter versus somebody like Derek Krantz, who is still got caught in the Contender Series. Actually, that he ended up getting booked for this fight. They didn't have a last-minute fight. He decides to step into the octagon. So kudos to Derek Krantz.
And I hope they keep him around, man.
They are. That the goal was they think they signed him to a 2-fight deal. Okay. We'll see what happens in this next fight. Next fight, we got Felicia Spencer, who defeated Megan Anderson via a rear naked choke submission in round one. Now, we both had Megan Anderson winning this fight.
I think everybody did.
Good point. We did both have, though, Megan Anderson winning this fight. The more experience, I feel, the more a veteran, the ex-champion Invicta FC, somebody who is very well overall grounded fighter, but the reality of it is that she continues to have a weakness in the ground. Great stand-up artist. Her Muay Thai is on point. Her stand-up game is on point. As soon as she goes to the ground, she's taking now several losses moving forward. And this is somebody who was considered to be a big person coming into this weight class, into the UFC in general. Really sad to see her lose this fight.
I truly believe Megan Anderson is still one of the top contenders in her division. She's taken unfortunately some losses throughout her career. However,
in the UFC specifically,
the UFC, with this fight in particular, it was a little, she should have seen it coming, man. This girl Spencer literally imposed her whole will towards Megan Anderson. Megan Anderson did not have an answer for her, which is very rare to see. She kind of broke Megan Anderson down and took her down and submitted her. So Spencer, congratulations. It might be a little too early for me to say this, but we might have a champion in our hand, man. She is a champion.
I will tell you, kudos to her fucking coaching. They realized they imposed what they knew exactly what Megan Anderson were lacking, and she never done very well with pressure. Megan does very well keeping her distance from fighters and breaking them apart. So that's something to say about Felicia and her coaching. Next fight, we do have Ian Heinisch, who defeated Antonio Carlos Jr. via unanimous decision as well. Same thing, all judges had a score 29-28 through all 3 rounds. Yeah. Another complete dominance by Ian Heinisch, who got the co-main event and did exactly what he was set out to do.
And that's exactly right. He, again, very similar to Spencer, just imposed his will on Junior. Junior really didn't have a response for him. He came really close to doing something, but the wrestling of Hinich just completely dominated this fight. Is why all the judges had him winning every single round. Congratulations! I'm really looking forward to see who they're gonna match up with that guy next.
Last but not least, Rafael Dos Anjos defeats Kevin Lee via arm triangle in the 4th round. I can't speak enough about the adversity of someone like Rafael Dos Anjos in this division, somebody who went from being the champion, who took a couple of losses, so people were counting him out, fight someone like Kevin Lee, who's also been semi-inconsistent in his performances as of late, and ends up pulling a massive victory over an amazing talent, puts him back into the talks of title contention, goes back into him could now start calling out names where he's supposed to. He did call out McGregor. McGregor was able to reply to that too. So I don't know if McGregor's keeping his eye on him. That would be an okay fight coming into a good fight for McGregor to walk into.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Very well said. I believe Kevin Lee really gassed himself out. It's sad because after the fight, Kevin Lee said that he felt like he was in the best shape of his life. He had an amazing training camp. There was no excuses going into this fight. However, he just pushed too hard. First 2 rounds, he was non-stop grappling, very active, really gassed himself out, unfortunately. And Dos Anjos kept his composure, bam, takes him down, bam, submits him. Tremendous performance by Dos Anjos. Shows you that he was once a champion in his division. Beating a guy like Kevin Lee is a big mark on his record. Again, another person that I can't fucking think who could you fight next. Back to what you're saying, McGregor would be a great matchup for Dos Anjos. It could bring up Dos Anjos' stacks up big time because he's not really, he's known to the fans, but not an eye pleaser, at least not as of yet. So hopefully, for Dos Anjos' sake, he gets a guy like McGregor to fight next.
Totally agree, guys. All right, guys. Catch you guys next week. Once again, we'll talk about the Gustafsson vs. Smith fight. Anything else you want to say? Thanks to everyone who's been showing us mad love. It seems like our Instagram page is really getting a lot of love, so we do appreciate all the followers and everyone who's supporting us. Peace, my people. Peace.